Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bill Payne, the pastor of First Methodist Church in Live Oak, Florida. It's good to be with you today. Do you like dogs? In my house, we like dogs. We always have at least two dogs. Sometimes we have more than two dogs. Recently, my oldest daughter moved in with us with her husband, and she brought a large blue tick hound to my house. I always thought a blue tick hound should be an outdoor dog, but that dog was really wanting to live inside. Unfortunately, the blue tick thought that my smaller beagle was just the right size to chase, just like a raccoon. And so my little beagle would run around the house playing and chasing things. And sure enough, the big coon dog would start making that coon sound, and my dog would run underneath the table and hide. It's hard to be a beagle because you're small. Yesterday, I was outside with my beagle in my backyard and we were just smelling around the parsonage, and a rabbit on the other side of the yard ran off, and that little beagle of mine shot across that yard just like a rocket, just like an arrow. I've never seen anything so fast. She was a blur. And that squirrel, even though he had a head start, he barely got to the tree in time. What fun. Dogs are so much fun, especially beagles. I love my beagles. When my children were younger, we had a Sheltie. It was my daughter's dog, and a Sheltie is kind of like a miniature collie. It's a wonderful dog. When that little dog was a puppy, we would go for walks, and we'd have one dog up front and the little Sheltie would just walk beside us. And it wasn't on a chain because it was just a small dog at the time. And the dog in front was on a chain. The dog in front was tenacious. It pulled really hard and it was constantly trying to find the scent of something to track. Well, that's what beagles do. They lead from the front. And if you're slow, they pull you along. And when they find something, they bark. And it's a joyous bark. And the bark says, hey, follow me. I got the scent. And whoever has the scent is the one who's leading the pack of beagles. Well, beagles are natural leaders because that's how they are able to bring everyone together to work towards a common goal of chasing down that rabbit or whatever else they might be chasing that day. However, the Sheltie was also a leader. However, the Sheltie never got in front of anybody. The fact the Sheltie stayed in the back of all of us. When we'd go on a walk, all of us, all five of us would go on the walk. The beagle would be pulling from the front and the Sheltie would be behind us. And that Sheltie was constantly going back and forth between the people, trying to get everyone together in a pack. And she was just really anxious if anybody fell behind or moved to the side. And sometimes we would play with her just to see what she would do. We'd let someone fall behind or get out of the huddle, and that little old Sheltie would just come and grab those people, kind of nipping at their feet, pulling them all back together. Well, the Sheltie, even though she was in the back, she was also a leader. She led in a different way. In the Bible, Jesus says this in John 10. He says, he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought them all out, his own all out, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. They are not going to follow a stranger because they know the voice of the shepherd. And then he says, I am the good shepherd. There are bad shepherds, there are hirelings, but I'm the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Jesus is using the image of a shepherd leading that sheep to where he needs them to go, and at the same time protecting them. And, if you use the analogy of my dogs, sometimes a shepherd has to go in the back and pull somebody up. Sometimes he has to carry someone on his shoulders when they've hurt themselves or whatever else. The shepherd may lead from the front, but he's also going to the back. But most importantly, this is what sets Jesus off from everybody else. Jesus knows the name of his sheep, and his sheep know the sound of his voice. They're familiar with him. They will follow him. In the church, we need people who will lead from the front, people who will give us a vision and will guide us into that vision. That's leadership. That's the traditional understanding of leadership. We also need the nurturers who also understand the vision and they're also looking ahead to where we're going. But they're the ones who pull everybody together and push them in the same direction so that people are not pulling in different directions and pulling against each other. Those who nurture from the rear are also leaders of the church. Jesus does both, and the church needs to do both. We need both kinds of leaders. What kind of leader are you? Do you prefer to be the one up front, or do you prefer to be the one in the rear pulling everybody together? May God richly bless you this day.